We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Tailgate is live, an emergency edition. We were going to record this Tuesday episode to publish Wednesday, as we normally do, but we have to go live. There's an emergency. Brian Kelly, a guy who's a friend of the show, who's been on this podcast,
yes,
is no longer at Notre Dame. No longer
a friend of the show. No, I'm kidding. He's still a friend of the show.
Your immediate reactions when you saw this?
I was floored. I mean, I did not expect it, quite obviously. We talked about it at the Lincoln Riley stuff on yesterday's show, and at no point did Brian Kelly cross my mind as being a potential candidate for any of these jobs. Even when it got first reported that they had interest, I'm like, okay, interest does not equate to actually going there. They had interest. Yeah, exactly. They had interest in. I have interest in hiring Bill Belichick to be my head coach too, but doesn't mean it's going to happen. But they did. They rolled up with $15 million a year, which I don't care who you are, where you're at in college football. $15 million a year is going to be difficult to turn down. And so,
I mean, especially for an LSU program that has won 3 national titles in 20 years.
Yeah.
Like this is, and you could talk to any recruiting analyst, any college football analyst in the world, LSU is easier to bring in, groom high star talent than it is at Notre Dame. That's a fact.
Yes. So from everyone's perspective involved, I honestly don't blame Brian Kelly at all. And for his sort of, quote unquote legacy as a coach, you could leave a much bigger imprint on college football at LSU. Like going toe to toe with Nick Saban there in the SEC, year after year, if you can rise to the top and be the perennial contender there in the SEC West, you've left a bigger imprint on college football. The recruiting restrictions that Notre Dame offers in terms of who you can bring into your program and what they have to do once they are in the program is going to hamper you in today's college football landscape. It just straight up is. I don't care how big of a brand they are. But I will say, Brian Kelly, at this point in time, I think you left Notre Dame program in a great spot. I think it's a very different feel if you're a Notre Dame fan than if you're an Oklahoma fan in terms of how that program is set up to succeed for the future, because he kind of taken a step back. We haven't talked about it. He took a step back from being involved in the minutiae of game planning and all this stuff and was more of a CEO, whereas he let Tommy Rees handle the offense. He let Marcus Freeman handle the defense. Basically, those were their sides of the ball. And the guy they had to retain or need to retain now going forward, in my opinion, is Marcus Freeman. That is sort of the future of this team. He is, if he's going to take you into that next generation of competing for national championships, he is the best recruiter to do so. He's 247's third overall ranked recruiter last recruiting season. He is, if you've ever been in a room with him, you just know that guy has a different presence to him that some people have and some people don't. And so I think he, to me, would be the front runner who I would pick to be the next head coach. But to retain both coordinators that's what you have to do if you're Notre Dame. You have to maintain that stability, because you can't have what's happening to Oklahoma right now, where it's kind of a mad dash out the door for everybody involved.
I mean, because Lincoln Riley took some of his best coaches, right? He took some of his best coaches to USC. You see, though, Brian Kelly, the rumors are he's trying to bring Freeman to LSU.
I don't blame him.
If Freeman leaves Notre Dame, because I think Freeman is probably the favorite to get that job, right? I think a lot of Notre Dame wants him to be the head coach. I mean, even Brian Kelly said he's going to be the next head coach of Notre Dame. But if, say, Freeman does leave, which I think he could leave for defensive coordinator gig with Brian Kelly,
he's trying to make him the highest paid defense coordinator in college football.
And I don't blame him for that.
Yeah.
Where does your head go in terms of names?
That's when it gets more difficult. And Bruce Feldman wrote a great article breaking down the best options. Feldman, obviously of the Athletic, friend of the podcast, way more is about as connected as any college football writer, insider, whatever. He highlights Matt Campbell from Iowa State. That one, to me, from kind of what I've heard about Matt Campbell, I would love it from a developmental standpoint. He's obviously done a great job of getting the most out of his talent, turning around a program, but I don't think they really need a turning around at this point. I think they need a recruiter. I don't think Campbell, from what he's done at Iowa State, has really gone in and changed from a recruiting standpoint what they've gotten. That to me, like Luke Fickell would be the guy. He's number 2 here on this list. Luke Fickell, Cincinnati. Like they've actually brought in, not only developed dudes very well, but started getting Cincinnati up in the recruiting rankings, bringing in guys that maybe they shouldn't, competing with Ohio State for guys and still bring them to Cincinnati. That would be the guy to me. If you're going to go on the outside, that is who I would name. But shit, at this point with college football landscape, see what Nick Saban, see if what he's up to with the way coaches are moving. No, I mean, like, shoot your shot, I will say. If you are going to go outside the program, set your sights high.
I think Freeman will be the most discussed, right? But if they do go outside of Freeman, I think their AD said they're not hiring a firm, they're staying in-house, and they're going to look for this guy on themselves.
Which, search firms are the dumbest thing in America. What do you need someone to tell you that you can't see yourself through literally watching other teams play football? I don't know, but
fair enough. I think it's Freeman, Fickell, and then Urban. That's who I think their 3 targets are going to be. I do think that's what's going to happen. I honestly do.
Urban, after the Columbus nightlife incident, whatever we want to call that, is not an option. He's not going to go to Notre Dame. Notre Dame is not going to, with the optics of that.
Look at the camera and say that.
Hire him. Urban Meyer is not going to be the head coach of Notre Dame. I'll just say that right now. I would love it. I had wanted him way back when. I wanted Gruden way back when they hired Kelly. Neither of those guys are going to be the head coach of Notre Dame right now. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah, I don't think Gruden is as likely as Urban. You saw Urban shutting down some of those rumors, but he could shut down all the rumors he wants. He could jump in.
This is true.
Lincoln Riley was shut down. Everyone shut down rumors. What did you think? We haven't talked about this part of it. How Brian Kelly left. So Brian Kelly, this is announced before he's able to let his team know. And he sends what was like a publicly shared, looked like a Slack message or group me or something to the team saying, hey, I hate you found out this way. That sucks, whatever. I'll let you guys know more about it at 7 a.m. meeting. And then that 7 a.m. meeting, per reports, lasted 11 minutes, and he was out. And before that, 20 minutes after that meeting, he changed his Twitter profile and all that shit to Baton Rouge and all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, this was a quick breakup for Brian Kelly.
That sounds like one of my breakups.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
I will say, better quick. I've learned from better quick than long. You don't want to drag it out. So no problem for me there with the 11 minutes. You don't need all this explanation about why the new guy is that much better than you. You just want to hear it, get right to the point. But I will say, the fact that he didn't text assistant coaches, that to me is bigger. There was a report that assistant coach had just left a recruit's house and finds out via social media that this was going to happen.
That's embarrassing.
That's the more embarrassing. That's if you cared about Notre Dame's program and keeping it intact, you would contact your assistants to. I mean,
this isn't the first time Brian Kelly's done some shady shit. I mean, you have that report that came out, or that old report that came out where LaFleur and Saleh. Yeah. Matt LaFleur and Robert Saleh were grad assistants for him at CMU, Fire Up Chips. And they thought they were getting an invite to a party, but then when they get there, he tells them to work the fucking parking lot and clean up shit or whatever. Like that. Brian Kelly, I'm not surprised. Not surprised. Can we talk also Spencer Rattler? I know we said transfer portal yesterday, but now there are rumors that ASU might be the favorite. Going back, like you said, exactly like what you said.
Everyone goes back home when they transfer. It's seemingly like they go back to where they grew up. So this one,
why do you think that is? They just need a support group?
And Herm's a good recruiter, so that's not surprising to me at all. Herm's probably selling
he's a good recruiter. He's fucking pressing. He's cheating in a lot of ways. Marvin Lewis. He's got Marvin Lewis.
He's got Marvin Lewis too.
Quinn just screamed Marvin Lewis. That kind of scared me. But this transfer portal's heating up, right? Spencer Rattler potentially going to Arizona State. You have Eli Ricks from LSU, former 5-star. Dylan Gabriel, there's rumors that he could go to Ole Miss. Yeah. Zach Evans, the TCU running back.
Jameer Gibbs, the
Georgia Tech running back. This transfer portal is going to be nuts. And I'll say this. Talking to coaches last year, coaches that actually leverage the transfer portal are going to be the ones that benefit. Mel Tucker signed more people in the transfer portal, I think, than any other Power 5 coach. And he improved that Michigan State program so much this year. I think you have to – this is a new era in college football. And I know everyone wants homegrown talent. I think Mac Brown talked a lot about recruiting and all that stuff. But, man, the transfer portal is where these, if you're not a top 2, top 3 team in your conference, you need to leverage these open spaces, get people who are coming back home. Arizona State's never recruiting Spencer Rattler in their lives coming out of high school. Now they might actually get a shot.
It's about to be, there's no transfer portal hard and fast dates, sadly. But it's going to be like free agency in the NFL.
100%
is what it's going to be like, which is cool. It's, as an outsider, maybe not if your program is kind of on its downside and you got guys moving out left and right, maybe Oklahoma's going to happen, like we've seen with Georgia Tech, obviously. Maybe not so cool, but then that behooves you to get stability of head coach and a player's head coach, one that's going to actually, not alienate guys and have bad blood in your program.
I think recruiting now too, there is this I want to recruit our guys from high school, homegrown talent. I think recruiting is twofold now. Recruiting high school kids and then recruiting transfers. Yeah. You need to be able to do both if you're going to be successful in college football. Let's get into Monday Night Football again before
we have to.
Monday Night Football, not again. Let's get into Monday Night Football before we get into the draft board update. I know you want to look at some of the biggest risers and fallers in your top 100. Washington football team squeaks out a win. I thought they were going to lose, man. I thought this was going to end up being a loss. Taylor Heineke drives down the football field. Their kicker gets hurt. They go for it on fourth down to end the game, to go 2 possessions. They miss it. Logan Thomas arguably drops that football, isn't able to get it in. And then Russell Wilson drives down the football field, wide open shot to Freddie Swain. Go for 2, pick for Kendall Fuller. Washington football team ends up winning that one. They recover the onside kick. Seattle does. A friend of the show is called for an illegal formation penalty. I won't say his name. A friend of the show is called
Nick
out.
Ballore.
Nick, fire up chips. He's called for an illegal formation penalty. They have to do the onside kick again. They don't recover. They ultimately lose.
Nick Ballore, fun fact, was recruited by Brian Kelly.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe, who knows? Maybe.
And then Brian Kelly left before he got there.
Really? Did he really?
Yeah.
This game where I wanted to focus is, the Seattle Seahawks are toast. No playoffs this year. Russell Wilson's obviously playing hurt. He's lost 4 straight starts. Are we crazy to say that Seattle's just going to blow this whole thing up this offseason?
I don't think it's crazy to say at all because, we said it. This defense does not have the talent. We've said it week in, week out. Cornerback group's bad. Defensive line has a dearth of playmakers. There is issues there, and they got swept under the rug for a long time because Russ was
top 4 quarterback.
Yeah, an elite quarterback in the NFL. But now he's not, and he's not even close to that after that broken finger. It does not look like himself. So the mask has been ripped off. You are the sort of what you really look like has shown through, and it's not good. And you still have the conservative play calling and conservative tendencies of Pete Carroll shining through as well that, again, look way worse when you're not a good football team. And so they have a top 5 pick right now. That's not theirs, that they've traded away for safety. And so you have the GM having to answer for decisions like that, the Jamal Adams trade. You have Pete Carroll having to answer to decisions like his defense being cheeks and the conservative play calling. And then you have an unhappy quarterback who, on a sinking ship, will almost 100% be asking out this offseason.
100%.
I don't know how to salvage this, but I do think the route they'll take is house cleaning. I think it will.
Yeah. I think house cleaning is the quickest route to being a contender again, too. Trying to retool this with Russell Wilson and all that stuff, I think would be very difficult. Who are some
because you also have to factor in the fact that Pete Carroll's 70.
Yeah.
He's 70 years old. That is, I believe he's the oldest.
For 70.
He does.
Holy shit.
But I believe he's the oldest coach in the NFL, right? Or either him or Belichick.
I'll look it up.
I think he's the oldest coach in the NFL, which, how much longer is he? And he's incredible at relating to players. He is a player's coach. He gets the most out of his guys year in, year out. There's no, debating that. But how long is he going to have that it factor? And how long is it going to take before, the game kind of starts to pass you by at that point? And it straight up has in certain ways to Pete Carroll. So I do think that is going to be a tough decision to make this offseason, but one that I think they're going to have to make because I think this is the sort of low point, or you want this to be the low point, and you want to sort of come back up from it.
Pete Carroll is the oldest coach in the NFL right now. Bill Belichick's the second oldest. Bruce Arians the third oldest. And the oldest coach in NFL history was who?
Marv Levy.
George Halas.
Damn it.
Coached till he was 73. Legend. Do we think, or I wanted to ask you what teams you feel like make sense for Russ next year?
Oof.
I could see if Derek Carr gets moved on. I could see the Raiders making a play, Green Bay making a play if Aaron Rodgers leaves. There's so many teams.
No way he would do that to Green Bay. He wants to go to New York, Chicago, L.A., but L.A.'s not obviously. He wants to go to
the Giants.
He wants to go to a big market. Maybe the Giants. I could see him maybe going to the Steelers with the obviously the fan base of the Steelers and whatever the pedigree they have. But that's he wants to be in a big city. He wants to leave a legacy.
With all of this, I feel like I say this a lot, but man, is there a better sport than football, dude? You got Lincoln Riley go to fucking USC, you got Brian Kelly leaving for LSU, and then this offseason, you're probably going to see Aaron Rodgers go somewhere. You could see Russell Wilson go somewhere. Who knows? Who knows? It is an insane offseason. All right, let's get into this big board update, but before we do, working from home is more important now than ever. Optimize your home office with an X chair and our many accessories to enhance your focus, productivity, energy, and comfort. Once you feel the customized support of X Chair's patented dynamic variable lumbar, there's no going back. There's honestly no going back. It's all in the LMX massage and temperature regulation, exclusively designed and made for X Chair with a versatile comfort and extraordinary design. X Chair fits any space, high performance, quality engineering, extreme comfort. Those are all the reasons I love my X Chair. Now I can't wait to be at work, and sometimes even if I'm not working, I sit in my X Chair and I get into that feeling, that really hot feeling. Now is the perfect time to purchase an X Chair. Why now? Because now is the only time X Chair goes on sale all year. That's right, only on Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. Save up to $500 on X Chair, 4 days only on Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. Go to xchairtailgate.com now. That's the letter X, chair, TAILGATE.com. X Chair has a 30-day guarantee of complete comfort, and you can finance your purchase for as little as $25 a month. Go to xchairtailgate.com and save up to $500. xchairtailgate.com. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the link in the description below. Draft board update is live on PFF.com. Your top 100 players in the NFL draft.
Yes, sir.
And the player that is now number 1 overall.
Yes, sir.
Is one of the biggest risers. Preseason, he was what?
29th.
29th. Now the number 1 overall player. Explain his ascent.
Aiden Hutchinson, Michigan defensive end. He played better football. That's the ascent. No, I mean, he went from, and honestly, he kind of changed who he was. Like, he even said that, I believe, on the podcast when we had him on, that he lost weight this offseason.
Yeah.
He went from a guy who was kind of a tweener between the tackles, he was more of a 3-4 defensive end, and almost in his usage and body type. Like, he was 6'6", 275, 280, long arms, two-gapper type, the way he was utilized in that defense. Gets down to 260, plays exclusively off the edge, gains some juice off the line of scrimmage, and doesn't really lose any of that power that he's known for. And so he takes his grade into the stratosphere, highest graded defensive end in college football this year. And obviously had the broken leg early on last season, didn't get to really show. And I think that was a big part of him being at 29th. Like, just purely what I saw on tape was probably a little bit better than 29th. But, like, coming 149 snaps and then you break a leg, miss the rest of the season, you're going to have to see what that guy's going to be when he comes back. And, what was Aiden Hutchinson when he came back? An absolute monster. I mean, you didn't have to watch much more than the Ohio State game to realize what kind of a talent this guy is. Just 15 pressures against 2 tackles that are graded very well so far this season. Not a lot of guys got the better of him. Shit, even David Ajabo in the same game didn't get the better of those 2 tackles the way Aiden Hutchinson did to that degree. Aiden Hutchinson, at that point, like I said, he's the number 1 player in the class. Like, I have very little doubt that he will be impact pass rusher at the next level.
No other Michigan player in that game had more than 3 total pressures. Ajabo was one of them, and he had 15 total pressures. I don't think.
God bless you.
Excuse me. I don't think this stat can be said enough. The Ohio State offensive line has not allowed more than 13 pressures to any team this season.
Yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson had 15 by himself.
Yeah.
That is absolutely insane. And you go back to his 2019 tape, he was one of the few edge defenders that got home against Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah.
That matchup is one to turning on that all-22 from 2019. I am not surprised he is number 1 overall.
Elite traits, elite production.
Yeah.
What do we want?
If he tests as well as people say he's going to test, it's not even going to be close. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be close. Charles Cross, Mississippi State offensive tackle, preseason draft board 60, now up to 9. And he has not just been a riser for you. Yeah. He's been a riser for everyone. Everyone is all in on Charles Cross.
Yeah. And, I mean, you don't have to look too much further than just PFF grade. 64.4 last year. And for him to be ranked 60th with a 64.4 grade tells you, like, what kind of athlete we're working with for an offensive tackle. 6'5", 310, was a former 5-star recruit. The guy can move. But he allowed 44 pressures because that was his first year as starter. Playing in the SEC, pass-heavy offense is difficult. This year, 86.7 overall grade. Massive leaps in run blocking, pass blocking. And you see it again, 719 pass blocking snaps. The dude has played a full NFL season's worth of pass blocking snaps and then an add-on about 200 more. Like, that is tested. and he's held up against the best edge rushers in the country at that point. Not too much more to worry about as a prospect. Like, you feel good when you see guys that level of athleticism, that level of production. Those are the guys. Draft highly.
Two linebackers that have risen significantly: Utah's Devin Lloyd from 57 to 21, Nakobe Dean from 23 to 11. Do you think ultimately both go in the first round?
Now, I already locked in Nakobe Dean. So, yes, ultimately one does. Devin Lloyd has not made the lock segment yet, but he was debated this week. I'll give you a little spoiler. It's not him, but he was debated because he has played elite football, and truthfully kind of did last year too. It was just, all the Pac-12 dudes had 5 games, 340 snaps last year. He's played over twice that this year. Like, you didn't get a season on him. This year you did. He's probably the most complete linebacker in terms of size, prototypical physical traits, athleticism, taking on blocks, rushing the passer, coverage, man coverage, zone coverage, just the total package for the linebacker position. The only thing is, like, that's kind of lacking is he's not going to test like Devin White. He's not going to run a 4.4. He's not going to be that kind of athlete, but he's still a damn good athlete. So at that point, I think right now, if I had to say, I think he does end up in the first round, but again, not the first round lock segment this week.
That's fair enough. I think that's fine. I think this linebacker class is sneaky good.
Yeah.
Nakobe Dean, Devin Lloyd, Chad Muma. Those are all three guys that have graded really well this season. Be interesting to see how they test. I think Dean will obviously be like the most polarizing guy. I think he could do some absolutely absurd things at the combine. But man,
Christian
a lot
Harris
of productive guys, right?
Alabama's Christian Harris kind of the wild card in there, in that he has not graded out well, but he is an elite athlete. And so he remains to be seen what he'll look like.
Are any of the Wisconsin guys draft eligible?
Yeah, I think they both are.
Yeah.
Sanborn and Chanel. Chanel was a debatable for the top 100. Didn't end up making the top 100, but he is in run defense. I mean, certain schemes, if you're not asking much out of them in coverage, where it's just maybe man-heavy teams, he could excel. So I think he's fringe top 100 player.
For Jameson Williams, who's the next guy on your list, he's the 14th overall player on PFF's draft board. Alabama wideout, super speedster, former 4-star that transferred from Ohio State. Why is he not just a speedster? Because no one wants to fall for just a speedster anymore. People realize that. Why is he not just a speedster?
He's got some shake to him. He's not straight liney. It's interesting watching him play, and this is a terrible comp. I hate this comp, but I'm going to say it. He reminds me of just a taller version of Deshaun Jackson. And that is just the level of speed and just kind of
smooth.
and the smoothness of his speed. Mm-hmm. It's not he doesn't look like he's just gliding, and he's just that much faster than you. It doesn't matter how hard you're trying, he's still going to outrun you. He's still got whatever gear it takes, he's going to get to that gear. And you've seen it this year. He's averaging 20.6 per catch in the SEC. That doesn't happen a lot, Henry Ruggs was not doing that even. So Jameson Williams, and it's the reason he rose is because you didn't see him. We didn't get to see him much prior to this year. The dude had 15 career catches at Ohio State before he transferred.
Well, and why do you think he said? Why was that? They got 3 All-Stars there, man. That's I wouldn't put what I'm saying is that's not a knock on Williams. In my opinion. I think they have talent. Their top 5 receivers are all insane. You got Julian Fleming, Marvin Harrison Jr. There is a lot of talent at Ohio State, so no knock there. But he's gone to Bama and he's been better than Mechie, right? And Mechie was this coveted Bama receiver that a lot of people were in their preseason draft boards putting in the top 50, top 40. Williams has outperformed him, soup to nuts. Yeah,
people looking at breakout age, which I do like for a lot of positions. When a guy has a unique situation like a Jameson Williams, I tend to forgive a later breakout age. When you're behind 2 other guys who will more than likely go in the first round,
maybe 3 other guys,
possibly, then I'm going to say, hey, we'll let that one slide.
The next guy on this list is probably the one I'm most nervous about with this ascent, just because it's happened so fast.
Yeah,
but David Ojabo, who didn't start playing football, I think, until 2017, 2018.
That's a big part of why I believe in it.
Yeah,
but
only played 26 snaps in 2020. This year has played 476 snaps for Michigan, has an 89.3 pass rushing grade, 39 pressures on the year. He has 3 or more pressures in every game since week 5. Mm-hmm. He has been literally improving every snap. with how much football he's played. I mean, you saw the special on game day before the Michigan-Ohio State game. He said he's still learning the rules. He didn't understand why people spiked the ball a couple weeks ago to stop the clock. Like, this guy is legitimately fresh.
Yeah.
And that we always talk about, you talk about a lot about this with age, right? Like, he's a younger player and he's already performing well. I think it's very similar with experience, right? Like, and this is a very inexperienced player that is already dominating college offensive tackles. Maybe he's not a guy that hits the ground in a full sprint in the NFL. I think it's a guy that could develop, but still, this is one of those guys where, like, man, what he could get to in the future could be absolutely insane.
Yes, he was born in Nigeria, moves to Scotland when he's 7, comes to New Jersey as a sophomore in high school, and plays. I want to know, like, how big he was, because he's played soccer when he got here. And obviously, like, plays soccer from being in Scotland. That's probably the game everyone played. Not a lot of football going on in Scotland, but plays soccer, plays basketball, and then his junior year starts playing football. And so that is the basically genesis of how long this guy has, and like you said, doesn't even know about playing football. 5 years he's been watching playing the game. That's it. And so for him to, again, break out this late, I can forgive a guy because this is his 5th year of football. And he's been elite when he has been on the football field. Like I said, 3 pressures in all those games, 89.3 pass rushing grade, and then the tools. 6'5", 250, long arms, burst off the edge. Already has some actually nice pass rushing moves in his arsenal that, like, for them to be doing that this quickly, I'm buying it.
He's also only 21 years old, right? Like, he's still, like, in addition to inexperience, he's also a very young player as well. Man, what Michigan has done, though, to develop, recruit, groom, specifically defensive line talent.
Every position but quarterback.
I agree, because Jackson Hill, they have some talent in the secondary still. But this defensive line has been insane. Maurice Hurst, Rashawn Gary, Aiden Hutchinson, Kwity Paye, Chase Winovich. They have had so much, like, legit athletes and
Charles
legit,
Wormley.
like, productive players. It has been Jim Harbaugh. Shout out to Jimmy. Before we get to the more risers here, right now at PFF, you can get 40% off any PFF subscription using code CYBER40. CYBER40 now through December 6th. If you listen to Mike and I all the time, right, and you're like, oh, man, love all the grades they bring up, all that shit. You can go to PFF.com right now. CYBER40 gets access to all that stuff, all the locked article content, Mike's draft guide that comes out in January. It's going to be an absolute treat. Make sure you go to PFF.com, use promo code CYBER40. Kenny Pickett will be talked about as this Jenny, who the fuck is Jenny? Joe Burrow riser at quarterback position, right? A guy that no one had pegged as, even in the conversation with Spencer Rattler before this season, but man, at Pitt this year, a 92.3 PFF grade in his 5th season there at Pittsburgh. He has been phenomenal. You said it, I think, on the Chris Collinsworth podcast. He's played like the best quarterback in college football, and that's just a fact.
It is. It's just a fact. And he's been very good. And now there are aspects of his game that I worry about translating to the NFL, but he's 6'3", 220 with a big arm. Those are good starting points for translating to the NFL. The physical tools about his game will translate to the NFL. He's got some mobility to his game. Not a runner per se, but can make plays outside the pocket. And he didn't have a bad game. He didn't have a bad game this season. His lowest passing grade is a 70.1. That is a worse game than even Joe Burrow's coming out. And Joe Burrow, we talked about, didn't have a bad game. Kenny Pickett, all games that should have been enough to win for his respective team. Obviously, his defense let him down. That's why I'm saying he should be in the Heisman conversation. Now, I think it's good to Aiden Hutchinson, but Kenny Pickett should have been number 2.
I am confident that Kenny Pickett will be talked up as maybe a quarterback QB1, right? Don't you think he's going to get moved into that conversation?
It will be. I mean, I think it will be decided at the Senior Bowl, honestly.
Yeah. He hasn't accepted his invite to the Senior Bowl, though. He could be going to the East-West Shrine. We don't know that.
He could be skipping it altogether. Although I think this is the year, if you're a quarterback.
You got to go.
You got to go.
You have to go. Penn State's Arnold Ebiketie. That's how you pronounce it. I asked him himself. He's a friend of the show. He is another guy that has not played football for a long time, but has been dominant for Penn State this year. I think he's been one of the more impressive pass rushers from a skills perspective this year. Like, you look at Aiden Hutchinson's fucking insane, and he's the #1 overall pick. But, like, the athleticism and stuff isn't the first thing you're bringing up with Arnold Ebiketie. You're bringing up the fact that he's using his hands well. He's got multiple moves. I like Ebiketie a lot. He and Jermaine Johnson, the Florida State edge, are 2 guys that aren't getting talked about a ton in this class, like Ojabo, Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Karlaftis. But they are both really productive players this year, and like you said, a big riser this year as well.
Yes, and honestly, I could see him ending up in the first round, depending on testing.
Really?
He's been
got to test.
that good.
He's got to test.
Testing with him will be big because I think he's a plus athlete, but obviously Combine reveals all. So 90.5 pass rushing grade this year, and he was very good at Temple, but he was kind of a one-year breakout in the shortened season, only 340 snaps at Temple last year with 88.3 overall grade. He's a senior, 90.5 pass rushing grade. I believe he'll be at the Senior Bowl. He accepted the Senior Bowl invites? He accepted his Senior Bowl invite. 52 pressures this year. And before it was Hutchinson clowning the Ohio State tackles, he had 5 pressures in that game. He did very well himself against Nicholas Petit-Frere. So, yeah, Arnold Bichetti, honestly, I feel bad about putting him at 37. He probably shouldn't be even higher than that.
Don't you feel that Aiden Hutchinson should personally apologize to Jackson Kirkland and Nicholas Petit-Frere for like single-handedly
costing them money
and dropping their draft
Probably
stock?
should.
That's
yeah.
I mean that's the
just give him. I mean,
Frere,
first overall pick.
If Frere
money,
say he like sat out that game,
yeah,
his draft stock stays high. Like now that people are gonna turn on that tape, like what the? And so much of that too. We haven't talked about the specifics a ton. We're just like, oh man, he was a game wrecker. But so much of it was him oversetting and Aiden Hutchinson just going right inside. He was just countering, going inside. They had no option. They had no option to stop him. Kyler Gordon, the next riser here, Washington cornerback. Also, according to Trent McDuffie, the most athletic person he's ever seen in his life.
Yeah.
Kyler Gordon.
2-time Freaks List member.
Moves different. Moves absolutely different in the secondary for Washington.
Yeah, and so a guy who, again, we're going to say it was like all the Pac-12 guys, 134 snaps last year. Hard to get a good handle on a guy in what should be his biggest year. That was his junior year last year, or I guess redshirt sophomore. And he only plays 134 snaps. So you see the skills, athleticism, 6 foot, 200, prototypical size, everything. And then this year, see it translate to a football field. 89.6 coverage grade. 21 of 41 targets for only 243 yards all season long. And he did it in a more versatile role than even Trent McDuffie, who is his teammate there at Washington, the other cornerback, who we're super high on. But Kyler Gordon's the guy who's kind of going in the slot at times, playing on the outside. They wanted him around the football more. 79.8 run defense grade. Very good in that regard. Very good in run support. Good tackler. Top 50 player after being unranked in the preseason.
A couple more risers here, and then we'll get to some of the fallers. Don't want to spend too much time on the fallers. They still got opportunities.
Yeah, we just got to give them some shout-outs.
Kenneth Walker, the Michigan State running back, who was in the conversation for the Heisman after that big game against Michigan in East Lansing. He has been phenomenal for Michigan State. I think there's a good chance with the bowl game that he could break PFF records in yards after contact per attempt, forced missed tackles per attempt, all these things. He has been exactly what PFF looks for in the running back position in terms of creating yards. That's yards after contact, forcing missed tackles, all that stuff. I do think that he's in the conversation for running back 1, but I don't think he'll be the consensus RB1. I think a lot of people will flock to Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller. There's still a lot of time left. The testing will obviously change a lot of these things. But right now, Kenneth Walker, PFF's RB1.
It's Kenneth Walker. Yeah, I mean, what he's doing at Michigan State, and I know they added people in the transfer portal, but it shouldn't be done at Michigan State. You know, like with what the talent they had around him, he should not be playing as well.
I mean that offensive line has not graded well this year.
Yeah, 89 missed tackles, forced missed tackles in the year on 262 attempts. I mean, just anything you want, he can do. He's an all-around back. And 53 on the PFF board because, shit, we hate running backs. True. But this is we're not going to put too many running backs that much higher than 53. I said this was a running back class without a true, like, difference maker. I think Walker can be a true difference maker at the next level.
Do you know the 2 people in college football that lead in forced missed tackles? One is Kenneth Walker. The other is
Bijan.
Malik Willis. Malik Willis has the second most forced missed tackles of any player in the country. Last one here, and this is a guy that you've thrown on my radar late. Sky Moore, whereas number 24, wide receiver for Western Michigan, listed at 5'10", 195. It'll be interesting to see if he hits that 5'10". But man, he has been
this year's Deontay Johnson.
This year's Deontay Johnson. You're saying he's that good?
Yeah. That
good. This year's Deontay Johnson, Sky Moore of Western Michigan.
54th on the PFF board. True junior, had 800 yards back as a true freshman. Obviously last year only 391, but not really on the radar because, you know, Western Michigan wide receiver putting up 391 yards in a shortened season. Whatever. Monster this year. Just watch him as a route runner. The burst he has, leads all of college football, 26 broken tackles after the catch, 12 in the last 2 games. If you go back and watch the tape the last 2 weeks against Northern Illinois, Eastern Michigan, unguardable. And I think he's going to run somewhere in the 4.4 range. He looks like he has legit speed. And now the size isn't going to be great, but good ball skills. There's really that is the biggest knock on him because he went 8 of 13 in contested situations. He's physical. There's not too much else to really bash. Other
some
than
of the competition he was
didn't
going
play good
against
competition.
was bad. Yeah.
Other than that, he's doing it and killing dudes when they can't hold his jock, obviously. But I was say the same thing about Deontay Johnson coming out too.
Yeah, I'll never forget when you first put Deontay Johnson in the chat, and then there's that game he had against Miami, and Miami had no answers, no answers to Deontay Johnson at Toledo. Football fans, I'm sure we all love an action-packed, high-scoring NFL game. But with the latest no-brainer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you'll be a winner once a single point is scored. New customers who bet just $1 on any NFL team to score can win $100 in free bets. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state, you can still get in on the NFL action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet $1 on any NFL team to score and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Faller season. We don't have to spend too much time on this one. Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler didn't play well. Looked a lot like he did last year. The same mistakes he made last year. Gets benched for Caleb Williams. Lincoln Riley leaves for USC. Caleb Williams the favorite to start in Oklahoma if he stays. Rattler now in the transfer portal won't declare for the 2022 NFL Draft. He was not only the first overall player on PFF's draft board, but he was the favorite to be the first overall pick. People thought Rattler was the next in line. He obviously wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
He still could.
It's still good. The talent didn't go anywhere. He just did not improve. Not only didn't improve, he got worse. And in a number of ways, and kind of the bad habits they could get away with, got entrenched in a way because he could get away with them in Oklahoma's offense. So I do in a kind of from a draft perspective, would like to see him go to a situation where maybe it's not great, where maybe he's not going to be able to freelance as much as he did at Oklahoma, where maybe he has to play within the offense more and see how he reacts to that. Because what he did this season was just tough to watch. So, Spencer Rattler, obvious faller.
DeMarvin Leal, 5th overall ranked player, another guy with just insane tools.
Still high on him.
Yeah, still fell from 5 to 2022. Yeah. Or 2020. Fell from 5 to 22.
Well, he might
Why
be
do you
to
think is it just because he gets played up and down the defensive lines because he doesn't have an opportunity to rank, play in one position, or is it the plays like Jane looks like Tarzan situation where when is this going to show up? And I think when guys like Leal, who have all this athleticism, have all these tools, don't put it on, I think I'm always nervous of those guys, right? It's why you have to identify why is he not playing up to expectations, similar to the Rashawn Gary question, right? It's why is Rashawn Gary this freak, but not even grading as well as his teammate Chase Winovich? And I think identifying why will give you a better idea of where to put him on your draft board.
Yeah, I mean, Leal wasn't bad this year by any means, but again, didn't take a step forward. You project guys with a sort of in mind that they're going to progress the way their tools suggest they'd progress. And then when they don't, that's concerning. And now he still has the tools. If you just never saw 2020 and looked at 2021, you'd be still impressed with this guy. It's not like he's dead in the water as prospect. Obviously, still 22nd on the PFF board. But it was just the hopes, the expectation was he would take it into the, I don't want to say make the leap that Aiden Hutchinson did, but make a sort of jump in his play like that. He just didn't see it. And again, we thought maybe, hey, playing him on the interior, a guy 290, maybe that could help him, and he looked worse on the interior. So that's why he falls on the PFF board. And I honestly think he's a likely candidate to come back to school.
Yeah.
Because he could be a top 5 pick still. That he has that in him. It's just he's got to put better on tape.
Everyone's talking too about this Texas A&M recruiting trail they're on right now. They are burning it up. I think they have 2 of the top 5 2022 recruits. I think they've flipped some guys to their way. Texas A&M is building a little bit of a monster down there. Be on the lookout. Keaton Slovis didn't even crack your top 100. Was 19th preseason. I think there's people talking about whether or not he transfers, stays at USC, or declares for the draft. Regardless,
I do wonder because I feel like he'd be a good fit in certain ways. for Lincoln Riley's offense.
Oh.
I mean, like.
Yeah, I guess Lincoln Riley changes everything.
Yeah. Like, he is accurate with the football. Like, that is his biggest strength. He is not mobile, but, like.
Not super big armed.
But Oklahoma's offense doesn't necessarily need that. And not super big arm, like Jalen Hurts wasn't either to operate that offense. Now, obviously, Jalen Hurts is mobile, but, like, I think he could succeed in that offense. Obviously, there's a lot of guys that could succeed in that offense, but with who he is, like I said, from an accurate perspective. But the worst part was you didn't see a change in the bad decisions. Like, if you're going to be that guy, what Slovis is, and we thought, with his level of actually how he could put the ball where he wants to put the ball, you got to start making better decisions with football, because he goes from 21 turnover plays as a freshman, 13 turnover-worthy plays in 2020, and obviously a shortened season, which was a lot more than he had big-time throws, to then, in this, 7 games he started this year before, he kind of went back and forth between him and Jack Starr with the injuries and whatnot, 12 turnover-worthy plays. He's still putting the ball in harm's way too much. And when you don't have, again, the tools, you better be playing some perfect football, and he just wasn't.
It would be insane if he does transfer with this Lincoln Riley stuff. I guess it maybe comes down to what Riley wants. Does Riley want Slovis? We need to know. Has anyone asked him that question? I feel like everyone's just been focused on the private jet shit, like him getting his house spot and stuff. 2 edge defenders that fell outside the top 32, outside the top 50. Nick Benito of Oklahoma and Zach Harrison of Ohio State. Why has Benito fallen so much? He's graded really well this year. He continues to put it on for Oklahoma.
He just didn't get bigger. I mean, like, there's only so much you can do for a guy who's 240 pounds at the NFL level. And it's just not going to be an every down player. And he's already he is an every down player for Oklahoma, but, like, he is not an impact run defender by any means. Like, he's a guy that has to be protected in the running game already. And so I still do like him as pass rusher, but, again, it gets more difficult at the NFL level when you don't have the power element, you don't have the size. You better be Micah Parsons, Von Miller as an athlete if you're going to be playing the 240s. I don't think he is near that. No, not a lot of people are.
What about Zach Harrison? Zach Harrison, the issue is not size, but it's been production at Ohio State.
Yeah, Harrison's a little stiff, man. Like, he had not taken that next step. Freak of nature, athletically, what he can do from a burst perspective at that size. But he is just not a turn-the-corner type of edge rusher. And at that point, I mean, you can maybe develop into a bull rusher, but, like, you should be – look at the last 3 games he had this season. 2 pressures in the last 3 games on over 60 pass rushing snaps. That's just – you did not develop the way I would have hoped. And it's just kind of it's just kind of a stiff, honestly.
Another faller, Noah Daniels, friend of the show. Do we just pour one out for TCU. Noah Daniels at this point?
I mean, pour one out for his draft stock. He will not be going highly. But he could still be a good NFL player. He could be coming back,
right? I mean, he's got to play. He's only played 510 snaps in 3 years at TCU.
That's the thing. 2 games this year before he gets hurt again. He just keeps getting hurt, man. That guy cannot stay healthy. So I don't even know if coming back will necessarily help him. Like, how much are you going to help your draft stock? Like, someone's going to take him day 3.
Because he's going to test insanely.
Because of how athletic this dude is. He comes back and plays healthy. It's not like you all of a sudden lose that injury tag.
True.
Because he lost 3 seasons.
He probably could get hurt again. I mean,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think he probably just you bite the bullet at this point. You just come out.
Super nice kid, though. I mean, that interview we did with him was really fun. I thought he is the guy that knows what's going on. He knows that he's got the injuries. He knows he's got to play. I hope he does end up somewhere, and he can just stay healthy, man. That's all you got to ask for. I hope he can stay healthy. Mike Jones Jr., linebacker that played for Clemson for 3 years, didn't get a lot of play until 2020, 365 snaps in that abbreviated season, then goes to LSU, struggles to find the football field there too.
Yeah.
And this year, just a 63.1 PFF grade. Another guy that a lot of people like the tools, but, man, has not shown up when given the opportunity.
Yeah, and he'll probably be coming back to school. Great athlete for a guy who's 6'2", 234. Like, he can move, can cover. Couldn't see the field because he didn't want to play run defense. And I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to play run defense either. But I don't play linebacker for the LSU Tigers. And so will be interesting to see how he develops in the coming years, because I think the tools are still there. But, like, you got to be showing more than he has so far this season.
Before we get to watch Wednesdays, bust watch, locked, first round lock, watch, all that stuff, whether it's football success or financial savvy, The right questions help set the stage for winning strategies. Western Southern is teaming up with PFF's very own Chris Collinsworth to share insights that can help put you ahead on both your fantasy and financial scoreboards. Want to hear about Chris's old playing days or behind the scenes with Al on Sunday Night Football? How about a need to know for your financial future? Now you can ask about either or both. And every football or financial question you ask earns you a chance to win a cater party for February's big game. Check out the Chris Collinsworth podcast and Western Southern's Instagram for answers to the best questions each week. Submit your questions at westernsouthern.com/askchris. One more time, that's westernsouthern.com/askchris. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the link in the description below. Remember, with Western Southern, you can rest assured on game day. Bust watch. This one I've been waiting for you to bring up.
Yeah.
Because I loved him coming out of Michigan. And
And
athlete, talented, productive, flew sideline to sideline. Devin Bush, now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, former first-round pick, top 10 pick, they traded up for. Yeah. Shortly after the Ryan Shazier injury, trying to get the guy at linebacker again. After a 62.9 PFF grade as a rookie, 59.7 in 2020, just a 32.6 PFF grade this year. Horrendous in run defense. A ton of missed tackles. It's been a rough scene. It's been an absolutely rough scene.
Yeah. And I gave him the benefit of the doubt, letting him try to figure it out coming back from an ACL. But it's been honestly getting worse is the problem. It has not been getting better for him. Grades of 27.4 and 28.8 the last 2 weeks. He's a liability in run defense. Nothing short of that. I honestly feel like they need to blitz him more. Like, that is where he wins. Like, he coming downhill
kind of similar to Patrick
with
Queen.
A head of steam. He is electric with his burst. But only came as a pass rush 23 times this year. Now, obviously, they know they can get home with 4. That's kind of why they have not blitzed him a ton. They have a very good defensive line. But you got to give him got to get his confidence back up, because confidence is low right now just watching him play.
Yeah, and when you're fast like him and twitchy like him, when you play without confidence and you're reacting, you're thinking on the football field, not just reacting. That's when your run defense grade suffers. It reminds me of Patrick Queen as a rookie. Mm-hmm. Queen at LSU was flying sideline to sideline, confident with where he was going. Bush hasn't found any confidence, and he's in year 3. Other bust watch, the better bust, Russell Wilson, question mark.
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame? You think he's a Hall of Famer?
That's what I'm asking right now. Is if I'm not saying this is the end, but like if we see a downturn in his play, like an Eli Manning-esque downturn where he's just turns into, he's got a 73.9 overall grade this year, and now injuries playing a big factor in that. He was definitely a lot better prior to the injury, but say we do not see a bump. Say he gets traded, goes somewhere, and it doesn't work out. Is he done enough, being drafted in 2012, winning the Super Bowl? Has he done enough to go to the Hall of Fame already?
I don't know. I don't know. I think going to 2 Super Bowls, winning 1, and grading as well as he has, he's been.
But that's the thing. It's like grading
doesn't matter in Hall of Fame.
Average first, give a fuck.
Yeah.
Ask Mike Zimmer. It's worth
shit.
No, was it grain of salt?
Grain of salt.
What's
I don't know what you're saying.
Mike Zimmer would say
it's not worth its salt.
Not worth a grain of salt.
Whatever.
I couldn't.
Anyway, Russell Wilson. For me, Russell Wilson, I think, needs to play better longer and potentially go in a deep postseason run again. In my opinion, I don't think I'm ready to put him in the Hall of Fame. I agree.
I don't think I am either. But it's like if he farts out like 5 more average seasons, then he will be.
Can you not say he farts out?
If he farts out 5 more average seasons,
yeah, he will be. He will. I mean, because the career numbers will just blow up, and he'll be in there.
It would be career numbers then.
But can I say something about the Hall of Fame? I think I've been on this rant before.
You hate volume stats.
No, I don't hate volume stats.
I hate volume stats. Frank Gore doesn't belong in Hall of Fame.
Whatever about that whole thing. I saw people were voting on the Baseball Hall of Fame recently. And I think Charles McDonald, who's been on this pod, he does great work, I think, for USA Today. He quote tweeted a Baseball Hall of Fame voter who said, I have 0 players on my ballot this year. None of them I feel are deserving to go to the Hall of Fame, whatever. And he quote tweets it, and I think there is some merit to this conversation. It's like, do you even like baseball? Why are you not putting people in the Hall of Fame? I like that way more than the current NFL version. NFL just puts like at least 5 every time. It's like, if you do that, this is not like a Hall of Fame. This is just like a Hall of Good. I mean, this is like all the best players every year. It's like we just keep putting them in. We don't stop. There's no way. Because like there's just no way that many players are Hall of Fame worthy. Like the percentage is just going to be absurd. Eventually, you're just going to put every fucking one in.
I do like baseball. I would prefer baseballs, and you can vote for as many as you want.
Yeah.
Like you can get a dozen in if you want.
Which is fine. It shouldn't be a limit.
I do think a flexible entrance is better.
The NFL puts at least like 5 or 6 in every single year.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous.
But I do think my take is baseball does this thing where they won't vote you on the first ballot, but then they'll vote you on the second ballot.
Yeah, which is good.
No. That's not good. If you're gonna vote for a guy, you vote for the guy. You don't say, "Oh, I'm gonna keep you off this year." That to me is self-serving bullshit that gives baseball writers a reputation that they have, which is that they like to sniff their own farts. That is absurd. If you think a guy should be belongs in the Hall of Fame, you vote him in as soon as because you've already had. It's not like his career's. You don't vote immediately after his career, and then it's like, "Oh, I had time to digest." No, it's 5 years later already.
Yeah,
you don't need more time to digest. Make up your mind and write it in the first time.
Do you think?
My take.
So I'm looking at some of these finalists for the Hall of Fame for this year, for the NFL Hall of Fame. Andre Johnson.
Okay, in.
You think he's in? Robert Mathis.
Ooh, that one's tough.
Anquan Bolden.
Also tough.
Jared Allen.
He's probably going to get in.
Devin Hester. Zach Taylor.
Devin Hester in.
DeMarcus Ware. Reggie Wayne. In. Patrick Willis. Vince Wilfork. Steve Smith. Richard Seymour. If Richard Seymour gets
those,
are you kidding me?
Last 3 probably not.
Richard Seymour gets in the Hall of Fame. When was Richard Seymour like the best at his position? We have grades on Richard.
He was
Seymour.
maybe like the best 3-4 defensive end for a 2-year stretch, and that's like a limited skill set.
Richard Seymour, I only remember from the Raider days because I'm a young piece of shit.
Well.
But I'm gonna look back at some of his Patriots grading here. From 2001, or no, we don't have grades on full 2001. 2006 to 2012, he never earned a grade above 72. What the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah,
I don't understand. I don't understand. I just think we just put any players we want in. Like, fuck it. The most notable Richard Seymour moment is when he punched Big Ben. All right. Off of this. Maybe Seymour was good. I'm just a young loser. I'm talking about 2006 grades when I was 9. Breakout watch. Jonathan Allen, Washington defensive tackle. He's been breaking out. He's been good.
But he's not been like this good. Breakout watch because he was good. And people were like, yeah, he's a good defensive tackle. This is an elite defensive tackle now. This is a guy who is he's joined the tier below Aaron Donald. It used to be Fletcher Cox, Chris Jones. Fletcher Cox falling off. Now I believe it's Jonathan Allen and Chris Jones. That's the tier below Aaron Donald for guys who are legitimate.
Jeffrey Simmons in that tier?
No, Jeffrey Simmons not in that tier yet.
Javon Hargrave in that tier?
Javon Hargrave.
Who's in that tier?
It's Chris Jones, and I just told you.
That's it?
Chris Jones, Jonathan Allen. That's the tier of the DTs.
Buckner?
Behind maybe Cameron Hayward.
Okay.
Maybe. But that's it. That's the tier.
Fair enough.
There you have it. But I will say, number 3 overall player of the PFF draft board is coming out, so we got it right.
Wait, say that again?
He was number 3 on the PFF draft board coming out.
You just said that so fast.
Yeah.
Whiff watch, a player we both liked coming out, but should have adjusted after the combine, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Jalen Reagor, the TCU wide receiver, now plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. The ball skills have not been there. We talked a ton about at TCU, he was not throwing a ton of accurate passes, but he could create separation down the football field, this vertical route tree, but stiffer than people expected at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
Did not move side to side in the shuttle or the 3-cone as people expected. And honestly, he struggled to create separation in the NFL his entire career so far now.
Yeah.
People want to bring up the drop and stuff, like him not catching that, but he was also like covered, right? Like every single time you look at a Reagor play, like he's getting covered. There's not a lot of times where he's wide open.
The funny thing was, we didn't really talk about the drops. We're more focused on Hurts, but like the funny thing was, earlier in the game, I remarked after he had like a sideline, I think it actually set up their first score, that he had the best catch of his career. He had the best catch of his career in that game, which was like kind of a contested back shoulder, leaping catch. And I was like, whoa, that was Reagor? Didn't expect that. Best catch of his career. And then blows 2 game winners later on. I'm not going to write him off completely. I do think his speed and can be a weapon, and he is still a little dangerous with the ball in his hands, but he is not worthy of the pick where they took him. I think we can get comfortable on board with that.
I mean, they took him over Justin Jefferson. They took him over
Justin Jefferson, Michael Pittman, Brandon Ayuk, 3 wide receivers that were drafted directly behind him. I think you would comfortably say you take all 3 of those guys, at least Jefferson and Pittman, over Reagor right now.
Last but not least, the first-round lock.
And T. Higgins. All 4 of those guys.
The first-round lock for 2022.
The much anticipated. Should I go through the names?
Yes, always go through the list
of who we got. Because we have locked in 14, I believe. Yeah, 14.
Some of these guys are going back to school, though, right?
possibly. Kayvon Thibodeau, feel good about that one. Derek Stingley, feel good about that one. Evan Neal, the Alabama tackle. Aiden Hutchinson, Michigan edge. Kyle Hamilton, Notre Dame safety. Feel all good about all those. Then we went to Marvin Leal, Texas A&M defensive end. That one, TBD. Tyler Linderbaum, Iowa center, 100% going to go in the first round. Garrett Wilson, Ohio State wide receiver. I feel good. I've seen wide receiver rankings with him as low as wide receiver 4. I still believe. Ike Ekwonu, NC State tackle, 100% go in the first round. George Karlaftis, Purdue edge. Yeah, I feel good still. Nakobe Dean, Georgia linebacker, 1,000%. Charles Cross, Mississippi State tackle, yeah. Jamison Williams, Alabama wide receiver. That one was recent. Jordan Davis, Georgia defense tackle, also very recent. Still feel good about those. And as you'll notice, no quarterback yet. This week, we're locking into QB. And it's none other than Pittsburgh's Kenny Pickett.
Really?
Got to be a first rounder.
Wow. Yes. Over Corral.
Over Corral. I just think NFL-wise, I think Corral is 6'1", 205. He plays in an offense that is not NFL offensive shall we say?
No, we shan't ever say that again.
Okay, it's not NFL offensive Kenny Pickett is 6'3", 220. Kenny Pickett has a rocket. I mean, Corral does too. But Kenny Pickett's more prototypical traits. People are going to watch tape and say, I buy into this. 4-year starter. 4-year starter. Like, people are going to buy into the pedigree. Yes, people are going to buy into all the experience and then the rise throughout that and the actual improvement throughout that and say, hey, I'm in.
He would be right now.
Because there's going to be quarterbacks go.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. It's not going to go the whole first round, no QB goes.
100%. I'm surprised you waited this long.
At least 3. And I was waiting this long because early in the season, you know, who would I
Can't say Rattler.
Exactly. Who would I gone with? It's been all over the map. So
I will say right now, Kenny Pickett should be, or in my opinion, will be the favorite to win like Senior Bowl Player of the Week. I think he'll go there and dominate, and people will. I think if he gets accepted into the Senior Bowl and all that stuff, I do think, or accepts the invite, whatever. I think Pickett will be like that favorite to be Offensive Player of the Week or whatever it is. That's gonna do it for this week's tailgate, man. We got this episode's tailgate. We got another episode coming, mailbag trivia episode. Also gonna preview the upcoming slate, championship weekend, baby. We are going to Indy. Gonna be there in Indy. Watching the Big Ten Championship against Iowa. Should be a fucking absolute treat. I'm excited for that one. 8 p.m. kick, 10.5-point spread, but it's going to be a dog fest. What's a dog fest? Anyway, until next time, Austin Gayle.
Westminster Dog Fest.
Mike Renner, tailgate.